You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Innovation Fuel. I am Dave Kiran.
And I am Dilara Farhadian. We are educators, entrepreneurs, and your hosts.
Innovation Fuel is our weekly business podcast brought to you by University Canada West. We are here to provide you with insights of fascinating stories from entrepreneurs, key industry professionals, and connect those back to the university to help students learn more critical thinking, more problem solving, and ideas as we go down the path of innovation.
If you want to learn more about the diverse business models, check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovation fuel.
So, Galari, I absolutely love technology. I love technology. I bring technology into my home all the time.
About it.
You know about it. You call me on Amazon. Alexa calls me out and says, "Hey, Galari's calling me from one house to another." I love it. I've got Amazon. I've got Alexa in the car. I've got it everywhere. I love the ease of use, being able to. My kids are on it. But what really kind of sticks out to me is that I think I've become very complacent. I think I've become so complacent with this technology that I think that we as society have become complacent with this technology, and we really need to know about how maybe technology can help with accessibility challenges.
Yeah, for others people, when you're capable of doing everything, you think that it's for granted. You don't need to be in the invisible minority to feel that way. So I will tell you that I, as a mom, when I had a little kid, and I need to have a stroller and walk with the strollers, I couldn't go to some stores, restaurants, because they didn't have a ramp. This is not just for all the society with our difficulties. They need to have access.
Yeah, and then you think about the visually impaired and the hearing impaired, and the visually impaired, they can't see it. The hearing impaired, they can't hear it. How does that technology then can be used to help individuals? How does this technology, if someone's blind or visually impaired, can they use a smartphone, and how can they use that smartphone to help them in their day-to-day activities?
I even don't know. I really don't know how they do it, and how they go somewhere that they don't know. It's the first time that they have to go there.
Well, I think we might have the answer today because we have a very, very special guest from Israel. Wow. And has maybe the answer that we're looking for. So joining us today from Innovation Fuel is a passionate entrepreneur, exciting individual. This is Idan Meir, is the co-founder and CEO of RightHear. He also is the previously founded a startup hub called Hub Banana in Israel, and also another startup element called Startup Calendar.
Welcome, Eden.
I'm very happy to be right here with you today on the podcast, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Eden. It's so exciting to expand outwards. We've typically focused around BC and around the elements around Canada. We haven't had any international guests yet, but I know that you are very interested in expanding your product line and your element into the North American market. I think this is a great synergy for us to have this conversation today. But before we get really going down this pathway, our listeners need to know who you are. Can you give us a little bit of background on who you are?
Yes, of course. It will be a pleasure. So I'm Idan. I'm 34. I'm married. I have 2 kids, and I born, raised, and stuck in a city called Ra'anana here in Israel. It's about 20 minutes from Tel Aviv, just like the whole country, by the way. But anyway, and I'm excited, about innovation in general. I would say in the startup world for about 8 years. Before that, or part of it during that, I was a student for business and psychology from the Open University here in Israel. But I always say that I think most of my learning of the professional world were through actual work, through actual business work, with all the respect that I also have to my dear university. And today I'm co-founder and CEO of a startup named RightHear, which I guess we'll talk about later on. Before that, I was the founder and manager of another venture called Habanana, which you mentioned. It was the first hub for startups outside of Tel Aviv here in Israel, and one of the leading ones here for mobile and web-based startups. And yes, well, you also mentioned the Startup Calendar, which was just a side project that I had along the way. Which basically helped startups community managers here in Israel to coordinate the different events that they were running, so there won't be overlays between different communities on different events. But that's just a nice side project.
It's fantastic. So can you a little bit explain about RightHear?
Sure. So RightHear is the startup that I'm leading together with a wonderful team, Gil, Guy, Ron, Ben, for the past 4 years. It started, basically what we're doing is turning public spaces into more accessible environments for people with orientation challenges, including, and actually mostly people who are blind or visually impaired. The way we do that is with an audible wayfinding system that we developed. It's basically an app that connects to smart beacons that we install in the venue, as well as an online portal for the venue manager to control. I guess I'm happy to drill down to it right away, if you'd like me so, or can I get?
Sure, of course, we want to see that. I mean, what problem you're solving actually?
Yes. So I think, we basically right here, we have two audiences, right? So one is our users, who, as I said, are mostly people with orientation challenges in general, but mostly people who are blind or visually impaired. I think their problem is pretty obvious, and I'll share a little bit about that. But before that, I'll just say the other audience that we're having is the venues that we work with. It could be, universities or stadiums or hospitals or restaurants. We'll get back to that. But back to our first audience, which are users. It's interesting. According to our research, there is in the U.S. specifically, in the USA, there are around 100 million braille signage wherever you go. You can find also in Canada, obviously, wherever you go, in the airports, in the hospitals. You usually find them next to the restrooms or, inside the elevator or on the buttons. Not many people know that 90% out of the blind community do not read Braille. Okay, just by the way, another fun fact, just earlier this week, it was World Braille Day. But again, 90% of the blind community do not read Braille, which means that for the majority of the blind and visually impaired society, Braille signage are nice, but they're not really helpful. Thinking about it today, by the way, specifically, I always said you have to be very lucky, brave, and smart to use them. Lucky to know where the sign is. Right? Because
you need to know where the sign is, exactly.
Right, where the sign even is, right? So you need to be very lucky, because, right? So obviously, which I guess, all right, it's kind of end of the game already. But let's say that you find that you have to be very brave, because who want to touch a public surface, right?
Especially in COVID times.
Exactly. So you probably don't want to touch it. And then if you really touch it and you know to read it, you have to be really, really smart to be able to get out of it the amount of information to know exactly where you are in relation to the environment. So all in all, that's great, but it's not very effective. And when you think about it, and based on a lot of interviews and conversation I had with a lot of blind, visually impaired people, if they want to go to a public space, if it's a restaurant, a shopping mall, a hospital, whatever it is, university again, they will always do it with somebody, which is just a pity that they cannot do it by themselves. And this is exactly the problem that RightHear is trying to solve, allowing this independence to go wherever you like to go, not just to the familiar environments where you're already familiar with. So from that side, I would say the problem is quite clear. Yeah.
So Idan, can you take us back to where you found the product market fit? Where you found the problem? Were you looking for this problem? Or is this something that came up along your journey?
It came up along the at the beginning I was saying it came to us by an accident. Today I'm saying it came by luck. Actually, it's more of luck than an accident. We were at the beginning. We were actually trying to do a whole different thing. We pivot after a year. At the beginning, we were looking to do some nice couponing shopping experience for indoors. We were looking to have this cool idea. We had this cool idea of how cool would it be if you enter a store and then you'll have a personal coupon that will vanish at the moment you're walking outside of the store, right? So it's available as long as you're inside the store. It's like a now or never shopping experience. Very cool concept. We still think it's a cool concept, but after a year working on that, we realized that, and by the way, to be able to do that, we were looking for a technology that will allow us to know whether you're inside a store or outside a store, because otherwise you won't be able to go with this concept. So we found that technology. We started to work with it, but after a year, we realized that the rumors are right. Startups are really hard and challenging. And we were thinking, okay, we really want to go climbing this high mountain for the sake of giving 10% coupon for ladies in the shopping mall on their coffee, or not. And we realized that it's just not for us. We were looking for something bigger, something higher, more meaningful, more purposeful. And we thought, okay, if instead of giving our users at the time a coupon, we'll just let them know what store it is. So if they're blind or visually impaired, that might be very helpful and even life-changing. And we started to try out with some people who are blind at the beginning. They were like, oh my God, this is like so amazing, and fall in love with it immediately, because it's a niche. We have to say, like, it's a really niche market. It's not this one of ideas where you sit down or thinking of the business ideas that, hey, let's do a wayfinding system for the blind, unless you have a very close friend or family member who is blind. After getting their feedback, exciting feedback, we realized, okay, we're up to something, but we also wanted to create a business here. So we were thinking, okay, there are not many people who are blind or visually impaired. So how can we develop a meaningful, also, scalable business model? And then we thought, okay, well, actually, if we're charged the store or the venue to pay for it, just like they're paying for a ramp or for any other accessibility aid for the website, for example, that's become more interesting, because obviously that could fit to so many sectors. And today, the way we think about it is just like an audible ramp for our users. So in that case, it's basically any other venue, from the smallest moms and pop shops to the biggest airports or hospitals. So obviously we have a very specific go-to-market strategy. We're not trying to get them all at the first day, but as a long-term vision, I do believe that in a matter of few years, hopefully it will be us, but it might be the market. Audible wayfinding systems will become as obvious as having your website accessible as it is today.
So, okay, I understand that it's the problem you're solving for people who have a problem, but as you said that the market is not big and it's a niche. So what is the value for the venue to come to you, right? You charge the venues.
True. So first, there are, I would say, three main values for businesses, for organizations to work with us. One is the ethical reason. I mean, that's just, I think, happily, there are still some ethical organizations and businesses around the world that just do it because they believe in it. They want to have, for example, if it's a university, to have the campus accessible for all of their students. They truly believe in that, and they truly want that. That's the ethical or corporate responsibility reason to work with us. And that, by the way, that's the best type of partners that I'm happy to work with. They do it from the real reason, the right reason, I would say. So that's the one. Secondly, there is the image reason. So we found out that a lot of companies happy to work with us because it's honestly makes them look good. It's an innovation that they're doing, and it's something for inclusion and equality. Brands happy to brag about it, I would say, and it helps them looks good. So if it helps them looks good and it helps us achieve our vision, that's fine with us. That's okay. Another reason is compliance, and that depends on the market. By having RightHear system installed, companies, organizations, again, venues, helping themselves to improve their compliance with the different accessibility act. In the US, it's called the ADA, and every country obviously has a different accessibility act. There are some, by the way, like in Israel, for example, that it's actually required. Not just helping them to improve, but it's actually a specific requirement for some type of businesses having some sort of audible signage, as they call, or talking signs. Lastly, I would say, for a bonus reason, if you like, for some cases, it's also an ROI case, which means that, but let's think about hotels, for example. So for hotels, if a hotel turn his space into more accessible environment, is not just earning the blind and visually impaired society, which are a very minority in population, is earning his whole family. So imagine just an Israeli family of 20 family members coming to Canada. The whole family will prefer a hotel that is accessible for this one family member. So that's, for him, it's for his whole circle. And therefore, there is an ROI case for them.
But that is very fantastic. So how do you find your venues, partners?
Yeah, so, mostly so far we've been doing it here in Israel through our network. I haven't mentioned it earlier, but we are a fully bootstrapped company. And from that reason, we are building it all, aligning it all on our network. We are happy that every customer or every partner that work with us sometimes is recommending another one and another one. And as I said earlier, when I would say the majority of our partners who work with us, the immediate thing that they were doing after installing the system is shouting out about it. Hey, we are accessible with this innovation technology that helps because, as I said, they brag about it. And that's great because it helps us reach to the next customers on their marketing efforts, right? As well as to more users. In the other side of the sea, I would say, in Canada or in the US, we are always excited to get inbound leads from different sides of the world, but we're also relying on networks. So again, if there are listeners here now that can help us reach to venues, whether it be your company that you're working in, the university you're studying at, or any other venue that it could be also a small one, we're always happy to turn them accessible. And you know what? I would also mention, if I may, one of the realizations that we had in the beginning, that if we want to achieve our vision and have it as ubiquitous as possible, we want to allow an event at the end of the day to allow our users be more independent in the world. So they have to have that type of system installed wherever they go, right? So if we want it to happen, we have to build and structure our pricing model and our business model to be almost as a no-brainer for the venues to work with us. And therefore, when there is a business that's interested in such a solution, it's almost always coming to a real project, because we never let the pricing or so to be a real barrier. It's bigger. We really count it as a mission that is bigger than the business itself.
So when you talk about bootstrapping, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're bootstrapping? How you mean by bootstrapping? And just because we do have an audience here that understand parts of bootstrapping, but how does your organization deal with bootstrapping?
So, and I think it's always also kind of how it happened to us by luck in a way, but not exactly, because when we started, I get there are also some entrepreneurs are listening to us today, and a lot of entrepreneurs are having this idea, and then when they're thinking, okay, how can I take this idea into a reality? Okay, I need to have some sort of investment. I need to go to investors, right? That's the way to go. That's the way you build your startup. And the truth is that it's not necessarily the way to do it. And we were focusing in the early days on validating the value that we're creating, not for some investors who think, okay, that it's valuable or not, but by the market, like actually going to the end customers and see if they're actually willing and happy to open up their wallet or pay for this. And this is what we just wanted to validate this idea at the beginning. And so we went to the first customers. They were happy with that and collaborated with us. And they thought, okay, let's go to another one. Let's see if it wasn't just a one trick pony. If it was just one, let's see if it's actually repeatable. So we went to another one. And then actually we started to generate income as a small, company. And based on that income, we've been able to grow our business more and more and hire our first salesperson. And what that happened, we weren't, by the way, it's worth again, say it again, our first salesperson rather than the first developer or the first or second developer. My co-founder is a developer himself, and in the beginning, he developed an MVP, a very minimum version of the app. We were actually going for a sales meeting at the beginning without having anything ready. So we were basically selling something that is not ready yet, but will be. And they were happy to give the leap of faith for us. It always takes the first and 2 or 3 the first to have this leap of faith. Luckily, we had that. And just after that, we started to develop more and more. So the reason I'm mentioning again that we've hired the first salesperson is because it helped us generate more income to the company and then hire more team members.
And so, like with your partners out there, because you started talking about partners earlier on, and you said the technology is the technology yours, or is it a partnership with your co-founder that's got some ideas around how?
Yeah, so it's in the beginning. So I would say up until like a year or so, it was almost an off-the-shelf technology. We were using iBeacon technology. It's basically Bluetooth sensors, BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy Sensors, for those who are familiar with that. It's in the size of a matchbox where you can just stake on the wall or on the ceiling, and it transmit a unique ID. It's an off-the-shelf product hardware that's usually used for other use cases, for retail and couponing, as we started with, and we took that technology for this new use case of accessibility. Today, obviously, we have a lot of our proprietary technology within the system. It took us the time to develop, and we're still developing it. But in the beginning, it was just an off-the-shelf type of technology that were available, but available, but still not in use for this niche or for this purposes.
That is very great. I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, you can help me with this one. What is your mission and vision in 5 years? Your vision in 5 years, maybe?
In 5 years, wow. As I said, I think I truly believe, that in 5 years' time, hopefully it will be us. As I said, I believe that RightHear could be the market standard for that. But as in an industry, I would say level of vision, I would say that audible wayfinding systems will become as obvious as having a ramp. Now, obviously, not all venues having a ramp for wheelchairs still, but the awareness that you should have that is here. I think like most countries, most people already know, you should have accessibility. Whether if you're doing it or not, that's another thing. But the understanding of having some sort of audible wayfinding system at your venue will be obvious. And another, by the way, proof for that is, as I said earlier, with online accessibility, because online accessibility has become so obvious just in the past 4 years. It wasn't like that before, because regulation got into that and the awareness has been created. So our vision is that in 5 years, RightHear will become a market standard for having an audible wayfinding system in your venue. Just like you have a ramp, you'll have RightHear for those with orientation challenges.
Yeah, I remember that those days I had a stroller. I have to take my daughter with the stroller. There was some place that they didn't have a ramp, so I couldn't go there. It's easy. I just couldn't go to those restaurants or stores because they didn't have ramp. That's it.
I'm so happy you're saying this, because it's a great example how accessibility in general helps not just those with disabilities. It can help everyone. And to give you some examples on our case, when we started, we thought, okay, and I guess if you're following my story here, okay, that could be great for the blind, visually impaired, but who else can enjoy that? And we realized through the years that it could be super valuable for people with dyslexia, because they see the sign, but they cannot read it. And there's a lot of people with dyslexia, even about talking about hotels earlier, even for language barriers. We learned that from some hotels that we work with. So you see the sign, you can read the sign, but you just don't speak the language. So if you can hear it in your own language, which we do, it's also helpful. So thinking about this universal design around what we're doing, and starting with something that is for accessibility, but eventually could help everyone. And then, by the way, there's some I always feel like it's exciting or crazy examples for that. Like, for example, even SMS. The SMS that we're all using came after phone calls. So why do you need to text someone if you can just call and talk to him? Well, because if he's deaf, you probably need to text him. But today, who's using SMS? Text messaging. Everyone, because it's handy. So this is just another great example of how assistive technology or accessibility started as a niche, but it can go so much bigger than that.
So again, you remind me when I was in Europe, we used toilets, but here, when I use toilets, people look at me weird. I said, I don't know what word should I use. They said bathroom, maybe restroom. It was.
But it is really exciting about, like, one kind of thing I picked up on that, and I want to just touch on this is the translation. So your application translates as well as communicates to people that are.
Yeah, well, we do that. We do that with with other translation services. We don't do the translation ourselves, but we use, again, other technologies, APIs to do that. But yeah, I mean, if we can tell you, so I'll give you some examples of how the system works. It's currently working around 1,000 locations worldwide. Most of them are here in Israel. There's an example in all of McDonald's restaurants here in Israel. We have it installed, and I always give this example because people tend to think, oh, that could be great for the most complexest venues like hospitals and airports. But for a blind person, just a small restaurant is still a maze if you cannot see, obviously. So in a McDonald's restaurant, for example, type of setup will let you know where you are. So, for example, you are at the entrance to McDonald's, even Gabriel, Tel Aviv. Okay, so if we know this information, we can easily translate it to Spanish, French, and others, and the user can prefer what language you'd like to hear that. The other thing we do is give you additional information about the venue. So if it's the open hours, or in Israel, if it's kosher or not, or whatever it is that is relevant to that specific venue. And then what's around you, we let the user know what is wherever he's pointing with his smartphone 360 degrees around him. As well as and this is another, maybe last example, calling for local assistance. So our users can just push a button and have a phone call with the relevant person in the area instead of going to Google and just look for the contact, and like the website, and then the contact us. And you can just have a one button phone call. And that's, again, another example how it can be, utilized not just for the blind, visually impaired. It can be for everyone who just needs some sort of assistant in that area. And you don't find anyone, whether if his heartbeat is getting, stronger or anything else. So not just for the blind, visually impaired, but this is where we're currently focusing on.
So, what would you say your biggest challenges are, my friend? And when you're trying to get out to market, what is your biggest challenges to getting into the market?
I would say, I think for now, our current biggest challenges is basically replicating our success in Israel in far away market, just like Canada or North America in general. The time zone make it so much harder, first to begin with, and then the cultural differences to continue with, and then other like, for example, there are some countries with higher awareness to the need or the importance of that, and others that less awareness to how important it is. Some have different regulations to that. Some acting different with the regulations, like follow only them or do more than that. So I would say penetrating faraway market, that's our current main challenge. The way we overcome that is mostly and this is, I think, one of the advantages that we at least have it right here. And it was one of those advantages that helped us in the past year of COVID-19, that I think our vision is bigger than our business, truly. Like, at the end of the day, we're doing something that is so much bigger than the business, I think, really. And therefore, there are so many great people that just help us for the sake of helping us achieve our vision, because they care about it. And that helps us a lot to create the connections and open up the doors and do the change that we're trying to do.
Yeah. So when you think about the future of, and I think we're definitely noticing the importance of technology-based accessibility. Where do you think the future could be with this technology-based, accessibility? Where can we go with this? I hear what you're saying. I think it becomes more of a social element, becomes bigger than what you're saying, bigger than what you're trying to do in this individual. It's a bigger play. But where can we go with this?
Wow, I think the sky is truly the limit. I would say one that even now, the future is already happening kind of now, because a lot of people, I guess also part of our listeners probably asking themselves so far, like by that time, well, how would a blind person even use his iPhone? I mean, it's all touch. How does that even happen? So that's absolutely happening. I would also say that part of our team members is a blind software engineer.
Oh, okay.
How
Wow,
could a blind?
fantastic.
How
That's
could a
beautiful.
see? I like it. Just, I always say it slowly because people are, what? How could a blind person from birth? And D. Kushner is amazing. How could he be a software engineer? How could he develop apps? And so for those of you who are thinking, how can he use his iPhone? It's like it's a joke. Like if you look at him, it's so easy. The way, by the way, to answer that, they do it with a software that is embedded in all smartphones nowadays. In iPhone, it's called VoiceOver. In Android, it's called TalkBack. But it's basically a screen reader that is embedded, which helps him to be on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, all that. So they're all part of that. So in a way, I feel like a big part of what is currently exists, a lot of people just don't aware of, but it's a real revolution for this audience. And thinking about the future, talking about, for example, the autonomous cars, right? So today, if a blind person want to go somewhere, it's only with public transportation, right? With the bus or Uber, Lyft, whatever. It cannot just drive over there, right? But maybe with autonomous car, it could be able to own a car. It could be able to own a car and just talk to it and say, hey, I want to go to whatever. So think about this, feel of freedom, being able to enter the car and go wherever you like. Everyone here that is driving knows that feeling. So I think that's exciting. I think that as we evolve the gap, what is, I think, this is maybe another message here, what is still slow to turn accessible is us as a society. Like we as humans are not fast enough as the technology is, because the technology is already accessible, but we as society, not too much. We could do better than that in terms of understanding the impossible that everyone can do. But
No, I think you're right. I think what we need more critical thinkers, more problem solvers in the market that are leveraging all these great technologies like you have done, Idan. Like it's like taking like this element, looking for how we may be able to help better service people, be more socially responsive and responsible in this space. I think that you're onto something here.
Yeah, and I would also, want to, for those who are thinking about it, that listening to us, a lot of times there is a challenge, I would say, with assistive technology in general of the business model. So how can you create a business model where it's such a niche market? So if it's a device for that, so that's a fair challenge. I think we've been lucky to solve that from our angle because we're having two audiences. One is paying for that. The other, our users getting it 100% for free. And might be inspiring for someone thinking, okay, how can I find another income, source to my business? How can I do the business model from another angle so it could be still viable?
And we'd like to have a last bit of information. Is there anything out there that we haven't asked you, myself and Galari? Any questions or any piece of advice that you would like to put out to our audience, to our students out there?
We still also have a long way to go, but I think first of all, it's a very exciting and fun way. Knowing that what you're working on is having a meaning in the world and proposing the world. It's a great feeling, and specifically with years like 2020 past year, where all economy is failing down. Having a purposeful vision and mission that you're going to work for really help us to pass this year in a very good way. So for those of you, the students or the critical thinkers, as you call them, out there, don't be afraid to go after your dreams with that. Follow them. If it's purposeful and meaningful for you, you'll find the way. And I wish everyone luck with their journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Idan, for being with us. Thank you, Dave.
To all entrepreneurs out there, our ambitious students at UCW here would love to hear from you and help you with your businesses through our capstone projects. Let's get a capstone project going, get some knowledge from them. Or internship, virtual internship. We've got a range of students, from graduate students, MBA students, to undergraduate students. They're here, they're ready to help you with your businesses. It's difficult times right now. We're stuck with some resources that we might not be able to. Let's bring the students in to help you maybe do that critical assessment, help you solve some of those problems. If you think you have a great story like Idan here, get in touch with us. We want to share these ideas because innovation happens when we share ideas. We learn from each other, we grow from each other, we solve problems together from each other. So get in touch with us. Our listeners want to hear your story. We want to hear your story. Reach out to us at www.ucanwest.com. innovation fuel.
I want to add it here. If you don't have enough resources or time, or you want to reduce the cost, and you have some project that you cannot finish it, so you can bring it to us, and the students and faculty can help you to finish your project. Thank you, Dave, again, and thank you, Idan. We have reached the end of another episode of Innovation Fuel. Idan, can you tell us how can faculty and students reach you?
Of course. Thank you again also for the opportunity today. It's IDAN at right-hear.com, which is RIGHD-HEAR.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all them.
That's it for this week's episode. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss our next episode. Happy podcasting, and thank you for listening.